Welcome to Empowered Living. I'm Ann Shu. On this podcast, innovative leaders and visionary experts share insights and practical tools for work, family, and marriage. Each episode, we'll explore how to elevate your life while staying grounded in what truly matters to you. You're working hard to navigate relationships, build a thriving family, and create a legacy of purpose. We're here to help you do that with confidence and intentionality. So if you're ready to live a life by design, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Empowered Living, the podcast where we explore the habits and conversations that help us build more intentional, resilient lives. I'm your host, Ann Shu, and today we're talking about money, but in a way you may not have heard before. I'm joined by Derrick Kinney, CEO, podcast host, and author of Good Money Revolution. Derrick is passionate about reinventing how we think about money, not as something to fear or chase, but as a tool for good, purpose, and impact. In this conversation, Derrick and I talk about why so many of us inherit limiting money beliefs from childhood and how to rewrite them. We talk about the difference between a lid mindset and a sunroof mindset when it comes to income potential, and how to raise kids who are grounded, generous, and financially savvy, even in affluent environments. We cover why sharing your mistakes is often the best financial lesson you can give your children, and the power of tying purpose to profits as the antidote to burnout. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a parent, or simply someone who wants a healthier relationship with money, this episode offers practical takeaways to help you see money as a force for good in your life and the lives of others. Let's dive in. Derrick, I am so excited to welcome you today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ann. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited about our conversation together.
Oh man, I can't wait. Okay, let's just dive in because I have so much I want to cover with you. So I know a lot of people believe that money is the root of all evil, but you have a completely different mindset about it, and you coach people about this, about how money is truly a force for good. So can you talk about that, and what does that mean, and what does that look like when it's actually...
Well, what you're saying is very real, and it can shock many people. Most people think, yeah, I like money. I want to make a lot of money. So where this became an issue, a couple years ago, I would have clients come into my office, and one particular couple said something that shocked me. And they said, Derrick, I'm really concerned about making too much money. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, I've been hearing from a lot of people that if you make a lot of money, it means you're a bad person. And I leaned in and I said, who told you that? It wasn't me. We need to change your friend group. They said, well, I'm reading a lot and hearing a lot that people who make a lot of money, they're bad. They're holding people back. They're kind of the villains in the story. And what I realized was they were hearing from culture, this loud voice that said that Jeff Bezos is of the world and Bill Gates and Elon Musk. And if you're super wealthy, well, you must be holding other people back. It's a win-lose scenario. And what I told this couple was, I said, here's what I want you to do. Remember that money is actually good because it lets you do more good with it. So let's change your motivation from let's just have this bulging bank account to 7 figures. Instead, focus on make as much money as you can, and then let's find a cause that you care about so that you can then give as much money as you can as well. That way you're motivated to do more good. And just it flipped the script for them. And it was the impetus of why I wrote this book, Good Money Revolution, was to give people the message that good money in the hands of good people gets good work done. And that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. So do you still get pushback? Do you still have people that believe that the more money you make, the more corrupt it's going to make you?
Well, I do. And here's where it comes from. So let me tell you a quick story. So I was in the office on a Saturday morning just catching up on some stuff. And when I walked in, I saw my voicemail light blinking. And I knew I needed to listen to that message. So I pressed it, and there was a frantic woman's voice that said, Derrick, I know it's Saturday. I hope you get this message. Please call me back when you get this. Well, I knew that couldn't wait until Monday. It was only going to get worse. So I called her back, recognized the woman immediately. She said, Derrick, thank you for calling. I got this letter in the mail. They're about to send me to jail. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Why are they going to send you to jail? So she tells me that she got a letter, and the letter says that she wrote a check and she hadn't moved money from her savings to checking to cover the check, and the check bounced. So it was just a non-sufficient funds letter. And I said, well, why do you think they're going to send you to jail? So she tells me a story, and she says, Derrick, when I was 7 years old, I overheard a conversation that my dad was having with a store owner. Her dad had just gone to buy school supplies for she and her sister. And the man told her dad, I know that you bounced this check and it was on purpose. I'm going to send the cops to your house and have you arrested and taken to jail. So this woman is now 60 years old, and she's grown up believing that if you bounce a check or you make any type of financial mistake, they're going to haul you off to jail. Now, that sounds crazy to you and I, but for a lot of people, these money beliefs are resident deep in their brains that hold them back. I told her, I'm going to call you Monday. I'll help you move the money from savings to checking. We'll cover that. But come in the office next week. We need to unpack all this stuff. And so she comes in the office. I started asking her some questions, and she'd always complained about getting passed over for the promotion and the raise. And she never really took my advice, which cost her a lot anyway. And what happened was she began to realize, wait a minute, I was told early on that if you make a money mistake or if you do something bad, then that's just how you are in life, that I just wasn't good with money. Within 3 months, she got a $25,000 a year raise and she got promoted to vice president, all because she changed her money beliefs. But most importantly, she began to take my money advice, which was the most important thing. But what it taught me was on the outside, and this woman looked the picture of success. But on the inside, she was this wilting flower who felt fraudulent and had imposter syndrome, but couldn't put her finger on the problem. And when she realized it was her money beliefs, everything changed.
Oh, that's so good. What are some of the other common money beliefs that you see people that they learn from childhood that they carry with them into adulthood that are some of the most dangerous ones?
Well, and I like the word dangerous because when they're taught, they're typically taught by well-meaning parents and grandparents who simply want to give their kids a dose of reality. The problem is it basically jades their future. So here's an example. Let's say that it's a well-meaning grandparent or mom or dad, and they bang their fist on the kitchen table while the kids are young and say, if only we had more money, then we could do the things we want to do. Well, what that does is it creates this culture that, well, if we had more money, we would have a better life. But now we're kind of stuck with having a crappy life because we don't have money. So money equals happiness. That's the connection. Another example that we find is that people will sometimes tell their kids, son or daughter, in life, there's the haves and the have-nots. And unfortunately, our family is part of the have-not family. So you're probably never going to earn much money. You're never going to do much with your life. Here's probably the ceiling of what you'll do. Now, had somebody else told them something different, they might have been wildly successful, but it's like their thermostat of expectation for what they could do in their life was set so low, they keep hitting this lid. And so what I tell people now is, do you want to have a lid mentality or a sunroof mentality? You want to live with, I'm only going to make this amount, and my goal is to live within my budget, make coffee at home, live on rice and beans. I need to not use any credit because that would be bad if I didn't use cash. Or do I think like a sunroof? Look, my income is where it is, but what can I do to add more value to my company, to make money, save money, be more productive, or launch the side hustle? And a sunroof emerges where now there's no limit on my income. So it's all about your perspective. But what I would ask people right now, if you're not where you want to be financially, then if you don't do anything about it, you'll be in the same spot, but complaining more 6 months from now. So just what is the one thing that you could do to improve your financial life?
So let's dive a little bit more into these money mindsets that people have that they've carried over from childhood. What do you think are some of the most important mindsets, beliefs, mantras, premises that parents should be teaching their kids about money?
Well, first of all, one of the mistakes I made early on as a parent was I thought I needed to be perfect. I thought that perfect taught the best lessons. And I'll share a story with you. So during COVID, we have 4 kids. All of them were back home. And so we had family dinners like the Waltons or Little House on the Prairie all over again. And we played this game called highs and lows. We'd go around the table and talk about our high of the day and our low of the day. And I realized that my stories were pretty boring. Okay. But one day I decided to take a risk on an investment. I put $5,000 into this thing and I think it lost half the value. So I said, I'm going to share this as my low of the day with the kids. So it comes my turn and I talked about how I made a couple calls into this, but here's my low of the day is I invested $5,000, but I lost half of it. Well, you could have heard a pin drop. The kids were like, oh my gosh, this is really good. Dad really screwed up. This is awesome. And I'm like, wait a minute. The secret to get my kids to listen is I need to share how I screwed up and share my mistakes. I was thinking about this all wrong. Because what we know is that kids don't like lectures, but
Yeah.
they love mistakes and problems that mom or dad make. It's like glue for them to learn and it draws them into a story, which is really cool. So, one of the things that we began to do is I would tell the kids, hey, you're not going to believe what happened today. What
Mhm.
happened, Dad? And I would tell them about a client or something I did, or you're not going to believe this dumb mistake I made. And you got to realize you've got to take a dose of humility when you do that, but what happens is it makes you look relatable and real to your kids. One of the biggest complaints I get from especially my past clients, I sold my business a couple years ago. They would say, Derrick, I want my kids to be in my business. How do I get them interested? And so the first thing is don't lecture them and don't tell them you have to be part of this business because I'm part of the business. You want to entice them with amazing stories that make them say, this sounds really cool. You want them to hear you making a sales call. You want them to hear you calling the electricity company negotiating, to hear your tone, to hear how you handle things, even to hear your frustration. When they can see mom or dad as real, then it's like, oh, so when they face mistakes or problems, they say, this is normal. I saw mom or dad do this, therefore it's normal. So many parents try to protect their kids, act like everything's perfect. So when they have a mistake, they think something's wrong with them, and we don't want that to happen.
So on the flip side, a lot of our clients are raising their kids in a environment that is much more fluent than the environment they grew up in. And one of the top questions that I get consistently is, what can we do to make sure that we are raising our kids to be grounded, nice, contributing human beings? So what advice do you have for these families that are struggling to find that balance of like giving their kids something that they didn't have, but also making sure that they don't grow up to be jerks?
Yeah. I like the word jerks. We don't want jerks in our family. So it's funny because one of the complaints I often hear, and tell me if you relate to this, is you'll hear parents tell their kids, well, back in my day, we didn't have this, or back in my day, we didn't have all the money that you have,
Right.
and we didn't have all the stuff. Well, there's a problem with that. While it's true that back in your day, it was different, but all your kids know is today. They don't know your day.
Yeah.
All they know is the life they have right now. And so when you really think about it objectively, it's not fair to say, well, you've got a better life than me, you're spoiled. All you know is that's the life they have, and that's all they've ever known. And so now you have to play the game that gets them interested in things that are interesting to them. So one of the things that I would often do is, and I want to keep it super practical because entrepreneurs and business owners, they're busy, they don't like fluff. And here's what worked for our family. One is that we would do a family goal setting meeting every year. Okay. Now, when the kids were younger, they did not like this at all. So I want to prepare you for reality that this isn't all dandelions and cotton candy. And I think behind my back, they would probably cuss me out. They were throwing stuff at dad. But nonetheless, they were there. And on note cards, we wrote out 5 goals and we wrote out our ideal year. And at first, the kids were reluctant. But what happened is then the kids began to achieve some of their goals. And they
Mhm.
realized that by writing stuff down, it was their pathway to get what they want. And so one of the things that my wife and I learned is so many parents, and again, we've been guilty of this as well, is we would try to live out our dreams through our kids. And they would feel the pressure of like having to do stuff that we wanted more than what they wanted. And it typically didn't end very well. So we would end each of these goal setting meetings typically on December 31st every year to prepare for the next year. And we would ask, okay, based on the goals that you've got, how can we help you get what you want? And I
Mm.
remember when Dylan, our youngest, he had to be maybe 6 or 7. He said in a straight face, he said, Mom and Dad, I want to walk across the ocean on a tightrope. Okay. And so with as poker faced as we could be, we then said, okay, well, what ocean are you thinking about? How far do you want to go? And it was a legitimate conversation to legitimize his goal. And he
Oh.
eventually realized, okay, that's probably not going to be realistic. But the point of it was, whatever your goals are, even if they're crazy, in life, you like people to walk alongside you for your goals.
Yeah.
You're a better part of their story. And so, for example, our son loved to play baseball. And we would ask, okay, what can we do to help you achieve the baseball goals you've set? Well, I want to coach. Okay, Let's find a special pitching coach or a hitting coach. And again, there were some financial constraints and these kind of things. But the bottom line was they would write their goals down. We would have them then stick it on their mirror so they could see it every day.
Yeah.
And the goal was it just got them in the mindset of set goals, have a plan, achieve goals. And so what I would tell parents right now listening and watching is lectures don't work. You have got to say things to your kids like, you know what, I've got this crazy idea, son or daughter, but I don't think you're going to like it. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean I'm not going to like it? Well, it's this and this, but I don't think it's going to be for you. Matter of fact, I even hesitated even mentioning it to you. Well, tell me about it. Well, okay, here it is. So you need to place the hook in their mouth and play hard to get to draw them into some of these ideas. So you just want to be strategic, but also realize more is caught than taught. Lectures go in one and out the other, but when they see mom or dad doing the hustle, when they see mom or dad having the critical conversation, when they see you laughing and engaging and entertaining people, that's what's caught.
So going back to this goal setting, because this idea is fascinating for me, you would have them each set 5 goals. Would you put parameters around categories? Like one goal has to be about school, one has to be about health, or was it just a free for all?
Yeah. So the 5 goals, let me see if I can remember them, personal, physical, financial, spiritual, and a business goal. Okay.
Mm.
So they would each write one goal. And by the way, to give you the setting here, and I just recorded a course on this a while back. I need to probably do something with it, but because a lot of parents are asking about this, but I would put on some soft Baroque style music in the background.
Yeah.
I would have them put their phones away. And what I would set this up with was no holdbacks. Anything that your mind is telling you you can't, we say cancel to that. Anything that anyone has told you you can't do, we say cancel to that. The next 2 hours are free form. You have unlimited potential and unlimited possibility. And so any messages your brain says that's not realistic, play it safe, cancel that. Okay, so it was important to use that wording to set the table for this time together. But I would have them write down the 5 goals. Then I would have them write down an emotion. I said, now write down, I will feel blank when I achieve these goals. I will feel confident. I will feel empowered. I will feel bold. I will feel like I can tackle the world, whatever that is. I want that emotion to be so clear that it drives you to achieve those goals. Well, then in recent years, we've added a couple pieces to this, which have really supercharged it. And one is what's at stake if I don't achieve these goals? Is it I will not achieve my potential? I will feel disappointed in myself. I will not achieve the money I want. I will not have the relationships I want. Whatever that is for you, what's at stake? And then even most important, and this sounds kind of crazy, but it's very, very effective. And that is now you're going to write out your best year ever as though it's already happened. For example, if I was writing this right now, 2025 has been my best year ever. I've formed new relationships. I've taken bold risks. I've done uncomfortable things that have yielded results. I've been told no a whole lot. But because of those no's, the yeses I got were even sweeter, and I've achieved my financial goals so that I can give to the cause I care about, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line is you're not just written down goals in 5 areas. Now we've gone to the emotion, to what's at stake, to how will I feel, to my best year ever. And while you may not always hit all the goals, and before we start these each year, I ask the kids, okay, those of you who want to volunteer and share your progress, they do. And we celebrate that. It might have been, I got 20% there. Well, it's 20% further than you would have gotten had you not set the goal.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Do you still do it with your kids now that they're a little bit older?
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's kind of funny now. The pendulum swings. Most parents, entrepreneurs, business owners, they always take the arrows in the back. They're sort of the pioneers hacking their way through the forest. And then eventually they find this nice, beautiful lake and people are like, great job. And I'm like, well, you weren't thanking me along the way. So now they bring their friends. Of course, the girls are married. They bring their spouses. And now it's just expected. And now keep in mind, one of the cultures that we've established in the Kinney family is that we we do business. And so I'll share a quick story with you. And one of the things I've learned, especially in talking to my boys, sometimes it can feel awkward talking eyeball to eyeball
Mm,
because you feel like they're stuck there. Here's a lecture from dad. This is
mhm,
going to sound wild, but what's been effective for me is to hop in the Jeep and say to my boys, hey, one of you guys want to go get your favorite burger and let's put on your playlist and let's have a fun together. And so we're just driving. And so I was with Dylan, my youngest, a couple years ago, and he opted not to go to college. So Lauren and Hannah chose college. The boys chose no college for their path. And I said to Dylan, hey, what are you thinking about doing? And he said, well, Dad, I'm thinking about starting my own business. And I just flippantly said, well, why would you want to do that? And he said, Dad, it's because that's what we do in our family. I was stopped cold in my tracks. I didn't realize that was the culture that we had created. And so, because of the belief he saw in his siblings
mm,
and in myself and in my wife, or all her support for all of us, he thought, well, of course I'm going to launch a business. And what it reminds me of, and I want to say this to all of the business owners and entrepreneurs listening, you may question, what the heck am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is anybody catching on? Is this helping my family? My daughter, my oldest daughter, said this to me a couple years ago. She said, Dad, you realize that if you hadn't started your business, none of us would have had the courage to start our businesses. I broke down in tears because it hit home. It was like, oh my gosh, truly more is caught than taught. And so all of you trailblazing business owners and entrepreneurs realize your kids are watching, and I firmly believe, and you would have to convince me otherwise, being a business owner and someone working for themselves, you have a superpower that people who have salaried positions don't always have, because they get to watch you see the highs and the lows. And it gives them a sense of, if mom or dad can do it, then I can do it too. And that's powerful.
yeah. So speaking of these entrepreneurial families, what are some of the biggest money mistakes that you see them make?
Well, one of the biggest I find, and it's normal, is to set money as the end all be
Mm,
all goal.
mm,
I want to get to two commas. I want to build a $10 million business. I want to hit this revenue goal. And all of those are great. And I have been down that path myself. I built a financial planning business over 25 years. I sold it a couple years ago to do some bigger and better things and launch some new businesses. But when you make money the only goal, what often happens is sacrifice of relationships, sacrifice of your own hobbies, your interests, even yourself. And oftentimes you will get to that mountain. The reason you're successful is you doggedly make stuff happen. But oftentimes you reach the pinnacle and you look around and there's nobody else there and you're lonely and you realize, wait a minute, I didn't think I would feel this way. And so let me tell you a quick story. When I first became a financial advisor, I was 26 years old, but I had a big problem. I looked like I was 13. I had no gray hair, no wrinkles. And I wondered, who's going to work with a face like this? But I had a passion for supporting local education. So I'm in Arlington, Texas right now. I graduated from Sam Houston High School in Arlington. I went back to my alma mater and I said, hey, I want to present a teacher of the month and a student of the month at Sam Houston High School. Because when I was a senior in high school, nobody successful ever came back to my high school to give me a vision as to what my future could look like. They just said, take math, science, history, everything's going to be okay. And all of us kind of knew there has to be more to the story. So the principal said yes. So I came armed with a $50 Amazon gift card for the teacher and a $25 Amazon gift card for the student. And each month I would just breathe belief and life into these people, give them a certificate. We had our picture taken. Back in the days, that picture went into the newspaper. It was cutting edge technology back then. So what happened next is I began to get phone calls after a couple months of doing this. And what one woman said to me changed my entire business philosophy. She said, Derrick, we want you to be our financial advisor. And I just immaturely said, well, why? I was so young. Why would you want to pick me? I shouldn't have said that, by the way. But she said, we know you're young. We know you're new, but we want to work with you because you care about what we care about.
mm,
You care about what we care about. And in that moment, Ann, all of the weight dropped off my shoulders because I realized I didn't have to be the smartest, didn't have to be the best looking, didn't have to be the best connected. I just had to care about what the people I most wanted to work with cared about. And that's when this whole concept of the generosity purpose that I write about in my book came about. Is no longer was I just working to make a lot of money. And believe me, I like money. I like investing it, making it, helping other people make money. I just like money. I love my net worth statement. It's like my report card for adults, I call it. I love it. So it drives me. But what drove me even further was tying meaning to my money and a cause to my cash and purpose to my profits. So what I began to do is I began to sponsor all the high schools in Arlington, Texas, and even some of the junior highs. And by doing that, surprisingly, it attracted $1 million clients. And what I found was that it wasn't the $10,000 donation to the symphony or the $20,000 sponsorship. They liked seeing that their advisor was involved in the community, caring about what they cared about. And then what I learned was, from a psychology standpoint, people want to work with professionals who are givers. It gives them an elevated sense of status. For example, if you're about to buy a product, all things being equal, if you're going to buy a pair of shoes, and then both are well made, good reputation, good reviews, but one shoe company has a compelling story from the founder of where they went from and where they are today, and each purchase you make, you're supporting a cause that you care about, all things being equal, even if the other pair of shoes is more expensive, you'll typically buy the pair of shoes that has the story and the cause associated with it. And so what I learned is, if you want to avoid burnout as an entrepreneur and a business owner, have a cause that you care about and promote the fact that you have a cause. Have it be part of your business plan. And I'll tell you, if we have a moment, I'll tell you a quick story about that as well.
Well, go ahead, please. I would love to hear the story.
So one of my clients, his name was Dave. He came in the office, and you know those relationships where you can just kind of tell the weight of the world is on somebody's shoulders, just like something's wrong. Well, I could tell it. I could just sense it. I said, Dave, I can tell something's bothering you. What's going on? So he begins to tell me that, Derrick, I feel like I'm burned out. I'm just mailing it in. I'm going to the office every day. He owned a very successful manufacturing company, but he wasn't feeling motivated to work anymore. And for whatever reason, Ann, I asked him this question. I said, Dave, is there a cause that you care about? Well, he sat back in his chair, his eyes got as big as saucers, and he begins to tell me a story about a trip he and his family went on overseas a couple years earlier. And he remembered the guide telling his family that in this particular village, it was so impoverished and so economically deficient. But if they had a school building that was dedicated, it could change the entire area where those kids grew up. And he remembered exchanging a glance with his wife as if to say, wouldn't it be cool to fund that school? And he gets back to the States, life gets busy. But my question brought this all back. And I said, Dave, what if you did this? What if you set a crazy goal to increase sales by, let's say, 20% over the next year, and you take a portion of that and use that to fund that school? We got a big smile on his face. And what we ended up doing was helping him. He mocked up a picture of what the school building could look like. We made a tab on his website called Our Generosity Purpose. And he let his clients know that, hey, we know you can work with any manufacturing company, but when you work with us, a part of our proceeds will go to our generosity purpose, helping fund this school. And he used it in prospecting, and his business grew. But he comes back in not 6 months later, but 3 months later. He looks younger. He looks more invigorated. He's back in the game. I said, Dave, you look night and day different. What happened? He said, well, I got motivated. He said, what you said made sense. And we let our clients know. But then I let my team know. My team got remotivated. But Derrick, surprisingly, the big winner here, he said, is me, as he pointed to himself. I am now more excited because I feel like there's a purpose to the work I'm doing. We've always provided great service to our clients, but now when we do that, I know that we're helping make other people's lives better. So now we teach this concept to business owners and entrepreneurs all over the country. And basically, again, it's the antidote to burnout. It's the antidote for people that say money is bad. No, it's not. Go make as much money as you possibly can by adding as much value to people's lives as you can and doing the good that you want to do. That way, when your head hits the pillow at night, you've lived a day of purpose and meaning, and you feel fully alive. I mean, can you really put a price tag on that?
What are some of the most unique, fun, cool generosity purposes that you've seen?
Well, it's all based on what people want to do, what their interest is. So there's two ways to approach this. Sometimes you want to do what your clients like because it will appeal to them. Okay, I definitely get that. But I would tell people listening and watching right now to pick a cause that you care about. Because ultimately, you're the one working hard. You're the one that wants to help make people's lives better. And keep in mind also, People purchase passion.
Mm.
People purchase passion. If you're excited about any cause and you tell people about it, they will automatically be excited with you because you're excited about it. But if you're like, well, I don't know about this, they're not going to catch that vision. Okay. So people purchase passion. And again, if you're part of something bigger, people want to be a part of it. So I'll tell you another quick story here. So one of the stories I mentioned in the book, there's a woman named Bibo Calandro, and she did some studies on how the brain responds to giving. Okay, so there was a car commercial, and they did two tests of this. So one commercial, they showed the features and benefits of the car, and they measured how the people watching the commercial viewed the commercial. The other commercial was the same car company, but they talked about how with each purchase of a car, a portion would go to support first time Olympic athletes. So they measured, as you can imagine, the brain response of the first group with the features and benefits, really no noticeable difference at all. But the audience watching the commercial, where they were giving a portion to support local athletes for the Olympic dreams they've got, the emotion they registered, get this, it was as though they were looking into the eyes of someone they loved. Crazy. I mean, on a TV commercial, wow, it's like kissing your spouse. I mean, what? And so what that showed was that when you have a business and you tie a cause to it, people are automatically drawn to that. And I tell kids this all the time. So I've taught a business club at our kids' school for many, many years, and I give them a $5 challenge every year. So I walk in the room, I give a crisp $5 bill to all the students, and I say, in life, there's a moment where your back is against the wall and you have to make things happen. This is that moment. And so for some of you, this is going to be a big opportunity for you. And I said, I'm going to give you $5. The game is, how much money can you make from this $5 in the next 48 hours?
Mm.
There are fabulous prizes, a $100 Amazon gift card, a $50 gift card. The money didn't mean anything to me. The goal was to let them know that you guys are investments and I'm betting on you to give you this opportunity. So I said, now, candidly speaking, how many of you are probably not going to do this? Half the hands go up. Okay, great. Because I always like to deal in reality. And I think teens like that people aren't trying to blow smoke at them. I said, well, do this. Take the $5. You can spend it on yourself, give it away. But how many of you are committed to give this a go? Half the hands go up. Okay, so 48 hours go by. I begin to get text messages. And one person, his name was Clay, there'd been a storm come into the area, and he bought a $4.98 box of trash bags. And he went door to door, and he offered to pick up limbs and debris in all the yards. And he raised about $75 from his $5. Okay. Another young man, his sister had a soccer game that weekend. He bought 2 cases of bottled water. And in the sweltering heat, he sold that. And I think he raised like $80. And then several other people had great stories. Even my own daughter, they made cupcakes. They went door to door. And when they were telling one of our neighbors why they were doing this, is for business club and it's the $5 challenge, they had all kinds of stuff they said. The guy comes back and gives them a crisp $100 bill and says, kudos to you for having the courage to do this. I'm going to buy all the cupcakes and go give them to the neighbors for free. Okay.
Oh.
So what's cool about that guy was probably one of the wealthiest in our neighborhood, but it taught our girls that wealthy people are generous over a cupcake. So never underestimate small stories. But anyway, let me go back to Clay real quick. Clay then goes on to the UT college, and he asked me to write a letter of recommendation to help him get into the business school there at UT Austin. And so with great pride, I get a little bit emotional when I say this, but with great pride, I wrote the letter and I said, Clay took $5 and turned that into $78. Imagine what he'll do with an MBA from UT Austin. If I were you, I'd give him every
Shows.
scholarship dollar available. And he almost got a full ride to
Amazing.
UT business. And so the bottom line is, everything we're teaching our young people today, if we make it enticing and we make it interesting, it's preparing them for ways to reach their full potential.
Amazing. I just seriously got chills just hearing that story. That's amazing.
It was
So
crazy. Yeah.
have you talked to him lately? What is he doing now?
So he actually went to business school, got his law degree, and now I think he's in the phase of just kind of figuring stuff out. As often young people, I've not talked to him in a couple years, but the lesson it taught me was when you bet on teens and they know you're betting on them and you incentivize them to have courage, it builds this courage muscle inside of them that says, well, I did it once and I can do it again. And from that class, we actually built a course called simpleteensuccess.com. We just took all the good stuff that these teens said worked and we packed it into a course that now parents can buy for their teens that teaches them how to effectively communicate with adults, because ultimately adults are the doorway. But if teens don't know how to talk to them, literally, one thing we teach them is, let's say that you're at a game and you're watching your sister play softball and you're stuck in the high school gymnasium stands next to this random person. And you often think that the adult is going to initiate the conversation. Nope. Oftentimes the adult feels as self-conscious as you do, and so they don't say anything. So we teach the teenagers a playbook, and the playbook is as simple as this. Hey, by the way, who are you here to see? And the person, oh, I'm here to see my granddaughter. Really? How long have they played whatever sport it is? Well, now you're having a real life conversation. And then you ask the question, so are you from, and then insert whatever city you're in. Are you from Arlington? Are you from Dallas, Nashville? No, I'm actually from, well, now you're having a deeper conversation. It's actually happening right now in front of your eyes. And then the third question, if you want to get wild and crazy, is, and you say this, hey, crazy question for you. What is something right now you're doing that you're most passionate about? Then the person's really going to go to the deep end of the pool and share something crazy like, I like to sharpen knives, or I like to hike, Mount Kilimanjaro, or whatever. And the beauty of that is that person is now your friend, because you're probably going to see them every game of the season. Now they're going to say, well, Ann, it's so good to see you. Well, hi, Mr. Smith. Great to see you. Well, just so happens Mr. Smith has a business and he's looking for interns. Or Mr. Smith knows the couple that needs somebody to watch their house for the weekend while they go on vacation. You want them thinking about you. The way you get into adults' minds and on their list of the cool teenagers to call is you have to engage them in conversation.
Amazing. I love that. I actually know a lot of adults that probably need that playbook.
So true.
Okay, so let's shift a little bit because I want to ask you about your framework, Millionaire Money Map. Can you share a little bit about that and how it's used?
Yeah. So one of the things I found, I built one of the top financial firms in the country over 25 years, and I made a crazy decision to sell it. And the reason I sold it was I wanted to bet on myself and build something even bigger. People would pay me actually a fair amount of money to guide them and help them create wealth and go from middle class to millionaire. And as I sold that business, I realized there were basically 5 key steps that I would use consistently with every successful client. And so what I wanted to do was really democratize that and say, now that I've sold this business, I want to give everyone in America this playbook and basically guide them through what to do. And what makes it unique is that the first piece is I talked about the family goal setting is setting goals for what it is that you really, really want in your life. But then second, set an income goal for how much money you really want to make. So many people think that their income is out of their control. Well, I've got to basically settle for a 4% raise every single year. If they're really generous, I'll get a 5% raise. That is no way to create wealth. And so we teach people a framework of how to make more money in their current job, determine if they can make more money there, how to launch an easy side hustle. The key is not just forcing this thought of you got to live within your budget, and that's good. But if you're barely making ends meet, you're going to have more opportunity on the sunroof side than the lid side. And then we weave in a wealth strategy, but also we tie in, importantly, what is your generosity purpose? So each person that we coach and work with, we help them find a cause they care about. That way they're motivated. And what we find is motivated people, they make more money. They face the same level of adversity, the same level of mistakes, the same level of people telling them no. But when they know that they want to help other people's lives be better, they just find a way to will themselves to success. And then the last step, which goes back to all of us as kids, I remember when I was a kid, if I went to Chuck E. Cheese and I made A's or B's on my report card, they would give me tokens. Okay. And it was like the incentive. I want to make an A because I want to play more Pac-Man and Space Invaders and all these video games. Okay. What we find is that adults secretly are all kids just with adult skin. Okay. And so when you can incentivize yourself to do hard things, people make progress a lot quicker. So if, let's say I want to save $25,000 to have a down payment for a duplex that I know will get me into the real estate game. Well, I can set a goal and say, okay, within 12 months, I'm going to get this goal. But there are a couple things you can do. One is you can call an accountability partner if it's not your spouse and say, look, I want you to ask me about this every single week to hold me accountable, because there's nothing more embarrassing than asking for someone to hold you accountable than telling them, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Nobody wants to face that. Okay. If anything else, just the shame of not hitting the goal drives you. But then you want to pick out cool things that motivate you. You know what? If I want to go see Coldplay or T Swift or Beyonce, or I want to go to the cool movie or the coffee shop, these are the quarterly goals I set for myself that upon achieving this, I'm going. And that's what motivates me, is the picture of me or me with my spouse or my family. You know, like I'm a big Elvis fan. Okay. Secret about Derrick. And so one
Love
thing I
that.
did 3 years ago is I took my son to Graceland, Elvis's home, but we couldn't just go. We each set a 3-month goal to achieve. And so I call it the double double. And that is, you can go to these concerts or do these nice things, but when you've worked your butt off and done the hard stuff to reach the goal, now you enjoy being there, but you really enjoy the person you've become because of the hard stuff you put yourself through. That's that framework. Again, is it easy? Of course it's not easy. It's hard, but when you have a GPS and a plan that's proven that if you follow the steps, you will get there, it's very, very meaningful. So we're already having early success with rolling that out. And part of it's because we're meeting people where they are. There's a lot of people that make good money, but they feel like they're falling further behind. And the culture today, a lot of the planning and the advice is for your parents. That may have worked for your parents, but it doesn't work for this generation right now.
So, speaking to the business owner who is maybe feeling overlooked by the people that they really want to be serving, what advice do you have for those business?
Well, let me give you a scenario here. So let's say that you're a business owner, entrepreneur, and you're in a social event in your hometown. You've got your favorite beverage in your hand and you're kind of mingling around the room. And a gentleman walks up and asks you, hey, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, great. And he kind of just says, great. And then you ask him, well, what do you do for a living? And he says, well, I'm a personal trainer. I design eating plans and workout plans so people can live a better life. Oh, okay, great. And then you exchange a few more pleasantries and kind of go on. You meet some other people. Well, later on in the evening, a woman approaches you and she says, hey, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I'm an entrepreneur. Oh, really? And then you say to her, well, what do you do? And she says, well, you know how business owners and entrepreneurs, they always put others' needs above their own? And you're kind of nodding your head, yeah. Well, I design custom tailored workout and eating plans so people can feel great, but more importantly, they can look great. And one day they can be the really cool grandparent that has the energy to chase their grandkids across the floor. I specialize in personal training for busy entrepreneurs. Pause. 1 week goes by. You look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I need a personal trainer. Which personal trainer would you be more likely to call? The man you spoke to or the woman you spoke to?
Yeah, for sure. The second one.
The second one. And for most people, they would say it's because they connected. They
Mm,
connected with a relatable problem. And so I call that your you know how statement. And so one
mm,
of the things that I teach as I speak around the country and coach entrepreneurs and advisors and people who are in consultative selling is there's a few seconds to build trust and rapport with a prospect. And typically, when people ask you, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm an engineer, I'm a consultant, I'm this or that. And you see they roll their eyes, they kind of step back because you're forcing them to burn brain cells to figure out what the heck you do. So instead, what I tell people is you want to connect with an instantly relatable problem. So let me give you 2 examples, Ann. Example number 1, if you and I are talking and I say to you, Ann, you know how when you take your car to the mechanic, it can feel like you're getting either overcharged or taken advantage of? Yeah. Okay. So right there, you quickly said, yeah, nodded your head. It's instant. It's a problem that you instantly related to. Okay. Example number 2. Let's say that there's 2 moms talking. Each of them have a teenage daughter. One mom says to the other mom, you know how when you talk to your daughter, it feels like what you say goes in one ear and out the other, and you get the eye roll?
Yep.
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 Yep. Laughed. Yep. So what that is that's an example of an instantly relatable problem. You see, when you tell someone something new, you're forcing them to figure out what you're telling them. Instead, you want to connect with a problem they instantly connect with. So, for example, if I was entering a room with high net worth entrepreneurs and business owners, I might say something like, Derrick, what do you do for a living? Well, you know how so many successful entrepreneurs and business owners, they have sacrificed their life to build something amazing. But what keeps them awake at night is they worry about could their kids or grandkids handle the business if something happened to them? Are they too entitled to handle it? Yeah, like that's an instant yes. Or if I say to someone, you know how so many people worry about running out of money in retirement? As I slightly nod my head, they're like, yeah. Well, we develop a 3-step customized framework that lets them take the worry out of retirement so they can have confidence and peace of mind. I'm a retirement income specialist. You see, did I say I was a financial advisor? No. Did I say I was an entrepreneur business owner? No, because nobody cares. You see, what we learned is that everyone's favorite radio station is UII-FM. What's in it for me? And if you can recognize that, then you build quick rapport because you want to give people words that they instantly understand. And they say to themselves, this person gets me. Oh my gosh, this person understands my pain. Now, does it guarantee they become your next client? Well, no, but it goes further to open the door of opportunity because you connected and they say to themselves, this person understands what I'm talking about.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, so before we wrap up, can you just share with the listener what is the easiest way to get in touch with you if they want to learn more, to find your book, to tell us about your podcast, all the things if people want to are curious about what they heard today?
Yeah, if they need more Derrick in their lives,
Yes, yes.
my wife would say, be cautious about that. There's a couple things. One of the things that drives me, I was this introverted guy that found a way to build a business by managing my energy. And I realized to be the true CEO, I was really the chief energy officer of myself, which
Yes, we
is
talk about that in our program.
great. I love that. I love that. And that's why I think we're so aligned on what we're talking about. But if people want to reach out to us, our website is successforadvisors.com on the business side and derrickkinney.com on the personal finance side. Probably the best way to follow us and really engage with our content is on LinkedIn at Derrick Kinney. We have a very fast growing LinkedIn channel. And then on Instagram at Derrick Kinney. We put out content daily. Matter of fact, I've got about 5 speaking gigs coming up over the next 8 weeks based on my LinkedIn content. And so what I would tell people, just as a parting thought, a lot of people wonder, how do I create my brand or how do I talk about my content? And I would just share one more thing with you. I would ask yourself this. If you had to give a talk on stage for 5 minutes about something you're most passionate about, and you had 60 seconds to prepare, what would you talk about? And let that central idea, whatever you say, let that become the central point of your content. That becomes your primary content pillar. And what you'll do is if you talk honestly and openly about that, you'll begin to attract the exact people that have that same passion. But again, back to your earlier question, derrickkinney.com, successforadvisors.com, LinkedIn and Instagram.
Wonderful. And we'll drop all those links in the call notes, the show notes as well.
Great.
Thank you so much for spending time with us.
I love it. And this was a real pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks for tuning in to Empowered Living. I hope today's conversation sparked some inspiration and gave you tools to live more intentionally in your family, work, and life. If you enjoyed our episode today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an inspiring story or actionable takeaway. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them because living an intentional life is better when we do it together. Until next time. Remember, the life you want doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice. Let's keep creating it one step at a time.